In today's video, we're going to be talking about psychedelic integration. This video is long overdue on the channel, and I'm really excited to share what I have to say about it. I have a lot of strong opinions, a lot of clarity to offer you, and I really hope that by the end of the video, I've helped to demystify for you what exactly psychedelic integration is. So let's go ahead and get into it here. But first, before we go ahead and talk about today's topic, psychedelic integration, I have a question for you. Do you have any interest in learning how to use psychedelics to heal yourself, to use as a life skill or a life maintenance tool, to learn how to activate your own potential, or use as a personal growth tool, or as kind of a self-therapeutic way of healing and continuing to preserve your own deepest well-being? If so, I want to let you know that I'm offering now a group coaching course by popular demand. So if you're interested in joining the group coaching course, you're going to get about 4 to 6 hours a month of group coaching. You're going to get all the crucial points and of the skill of using psychedelics for self-healing and personal growth. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, do yourself and me both a favor. Click on the link below. It'll go to my website and you'll see more information about it there. And if you're interested in that, click on the link there. Go and sign up for the email. The group coaching course will open on October 1st. That'll be when you can actually pay for it and sign up and become a member. It's subscription based, cancel anytime, of course. And then we'll have our first session probably October 6th, give or take. So go ahead and get on the emailing list so that you know as soon as it opens, so that you can join the group and be there and learn. I have a lot of great stuff to share with you, probably way more than I could really articulate, but I'm going to do my best to try to cram the best of it into the most clean, concise, well-articulated, kind of experiential course. So yeah, I think you're really going to love it. So check it out. Click on the link below, go to my website, and go ahead and add your email. And yeah, I think you'll be happy you did. All right, let's go ahead and get into the topic. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it here. So off the bat, I just want to clarify that I will have chapters down below for the different segments of this video if you don't want to watch the whole thing. I'm imagining this is probably going to be a bit long here, as I have a lot to say on the topic. And just so you know really quick, this video is going to be much more about the what of psychedelic integration than about the how. If you want to learn the how, there's a lot I can show you about that. I know exactly what I mean when I say psychedelic integration, and I can show you how to do it for yourself. And that's something that's going to be a part of the group coaching program. So please, again, if you're interested in that, sign up. It's going to be well worth the money. I'm really trying to create a lot of value for very little money for you. So with that being said, I want to set a little context around psychedelic integration, because it is one of these concepts that you see all over the place in the kind of psychedelic therapy space right now. So whether you're on podcasts or whether you're watching YouTube videos, whether you're reading about it on websites, talking to coaches, talking to people who claim to be integration specialists, all this kind of stuff, you will hear a major emphasis, if you're interested in psychedelics these days, on integration, integration, integration. And it's this buzzword is the kind of biggest buzzword in the space right now. But what you don't really hear or see any of them saying is what specifically they mean when they say psychedelic integration, what exactly it is, how to know if you've integrated. Definitions are really hard to come by around psychedelic integration. And I find that really disappointing, to be honest, and I find that a bit frustrating as a learner and a listener. And so I wanted to try to demystify that for you and clarify that for you, since this is one of the things I do with my clients. This is one of the things that for me was a major missing piece in my youth with psychedelics and all the mystical experiences and spiritual experiences and positive, amazing transformational moments I was having that kind of just faded away and slipped through my fingers because I didn't know how to integrate. This is a key, crucial skill. And so it's my hope here that I can really articulate to you in a really clear-cut way what exactly I at least mean. I don't know if I can define it for anyone else when I say psychedelic integration. So one of the issues, before we go ahead and dive into it here, is that If you talk to different psychedelic therapy people, whether they are coaches or shamans or spiritual healers or straight up therapists or researchers, I've been on calls with these people. I've talked to these people. I've, explored it and unpacked it. I have friends who are in this world. And one thing that's become abundantly clear to me, the more I talk to people about psychedelic integration, is that there's no consensus on what it is right now. Okay. So you might see some sort of official definition from one person, including me, right? But please know off the bat here that there's no clear-cut consensus about what psychedelic integration really is. Okay. You'll hear all kinds of stuff, and I see people online claiming all the time that they've integrated. And personally, I'm a little skeptical, and that's because I have strong opinions about this topic and because I have kind of a higher standard that I've set myself about this topic as well. So I hope to communicate all that to you in this video. And with that kind of setup out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into talking more specifically about it and defining what it is and isn't, starting with what integration is not. Now, this is the part of the video where I'm very likely to possibly upset some of you as viewers, piss some people off with my kind of strong, polarizing opinions. I will take ownership that I'm a bit of a contrarian, almost to a ridiculous degree sometimes. I definitely have that tendency inside of myself to polarize opinions and, diverge with my own unique perspective. Kind of always been that way. I've worked long and hard at making sure that I'm being inclusive and not so quick to polarize or not so quick to dismiss and really to soften that contrarian impulse and use it more in terms of just trying to broaden the scope of my understanding with things than use it to be just oppositional for no reason. With that being said, I am of the opinion, as it stands right now, that there are certain things that qualify psychedelic integration and there are certain things that don't. And I want to delineate for you so that you have a clearer understanding what exactly I think psychedelic integration isn't, that I often hear people talking about and speaking about as if it were. So let me go ahead and just kind of rattle off some examples here, and you'll probably get the gist of what I mean. So just to kind of add a little more context around this before I do, psychedelic integration is one part of the aftercare phase of doing psychedelics, right? So there's a broader kind of category of techniques, skills, relationships, approaches involved in psychedelic aftercare. And I want to make distinctions here because I feel like this buzzword is being used as kind of a catch-all to try to contain all kinds of aspects of psychedelic aftercare. And I just don't think that that's really accurate. I don't think it's right to be so fuzzy with our definition or so broad or so diffuse. So I would say that psychedelic integration is one part of aftercare, but it is not the totality of aftercare. And so this is kind of point number one I want to make here, is that what psychedelic integration isn't, is that it's not all of the aftercare phase, right? So it's not all the things you do to take care of yourself after a big trip. If you had a big intense trip and a bunch of stuff came up, that doesn't necessarily mean that integration is the step you want to take. If you are exhausted and you need to recoup, that's not necessarily integration either. If you just in general, want to contemplate and reflect on it, that's not integration either in my book. So some other thing that psychedelic integration isn't, contemplation, like I just said. So if you want to spend time reflecting on the lessons and the insights and the experiences and the learnings and the metaphoric kind of experiences you had, to me, that's not integration. What else isn't integration? Self-care. So if you are taking time to do yoga and stretch and eat a nice meal and maybe take a bath and all that kind of stuff, take care of your body and relax, that's not integration either in my book. What else is not integration? Journaling, It's a huge one. A lot of people say, yeah, I integrated by journaling. I don't think that integration happens from journaling. Maybe a little bit, but I'll try to explain what I mean by that further on in the video here. What else? Hikes, walks in nature. These are all things you see spoken of a lot by people in the psychedelic space. Yoga, exercise, jogging. None of that is integration in my book. A big one that you hear a lot, you'll hear a lot of psychedelic therapists and kind of people who are in this milieu talk about is meaning making. To me, that's also not integration. And I'll explain why in a moment here, but I want to make this clear distinction. And the other big one that you see a lot is people thinking that extending their afterglow, that integration is about running with that good feeling you have, that well-resourced, abundant, positive emotion, that calmer mindset, that more open way of being, running with that for a longer period of time before that kind of closes out and disappears after a psychedelic session. I also don't think that that's integration if we can extend that out. Sometimes, to be clear, when we do integrate, it will extend that out or bring that feeling or those feelings more accurately, or those sets of insights further and deeper into our lives. But that's not the main goal of integration. So in my mind, again, this might kind of upset some of you if you are either a practitioner already in some form in the psychedelic therapy world, or an integration coach, or you're calling yourself an integration coach, or you've worked with an integration coach and this is what they did with you, that you're journaling and taking hikes in nature and contemplating, doing meaning making with you. I'm here to say that doesn't meet my standard of integration, and I'm about to explain to you why. So hopefully that doesn't piss you off too much, but I want to make that clear so that we know those are part of aftercare. Don't get me wrong. Those are part of well-being. Those are all beautiful things, all things I love to do myself very much. But I wouldn't classify those, strictly speaking, as things that really integrate. So I guess that leaves the question, what is integration? So let's go ahead and talk about that a bit and unpack that further. By the way, I should have said in the intro of the video, I want to acknowledge that I had mentioned in my last video that I posted walking in the park that I'd filmed a video on integration, and indeed that is true. I did actually film a video on integration walking through the park, and I wanted to post it a couple weeks ago, but unfortunately when I went back and started to edit it, I noticed that the audio was just trash. It was terrible. It was unlistenable. And quite honestly, I was a little rambly in the video, so I thought I'd reshoot here with my better camera in a more controlled environment where the sound is better, and where I can kind of look at my notes here and kind of really get you a more focused transmission of what I mean here. So my apologies if you've been expecting a video on this for a few weeks and you haven't seen one, so here it is. Anyways, getting into what integration actually is, right? What is integration? Let me explain this to you. So essentially, my understanding of integration, my belief and my view on it is that integration happens, and integration is when we take the breakthrough insights, the breakthrough states, right? We have like a new experience of a emotional, body, somatic, energetic state that we haven't felt in a long time or maybe ever. Taking a breakthrough mystical experience, taking something like that, some sort of big, positive, powerful moment, even if it was a fleeting moment, if it was impactful and it was healing and it was transformative or constructive to your life experience overall, to have that moment, to take that and connect that back to your daily persona, your daily lived experience of life, and plug that in specifically to where you need it in your life, specifically to the area where the problem is. So, as an example, let's say that you're struggling with anxiety, right? And you're taking psychedelics to try to understand your own anxiety, to try to heal your own anxiety, and you're kind of struggling with anxiety. Let's say you take the psychedelic and you have a moment of profound, deep peace, right? You have this breakthrough experience of feeling the profound peace of all of life flowing through you. And you notice there's no thoughts, there's no worries, there's no confusion, there's no somatic tension. You feel yourself grounded and released from all of that anxiety, even if it was just for a minute or 2 minutes, but it was profound, right? So what's happened in a situation like that is that you have like a neural circuit that you could call anxiety, that your brain and your nervous system, your bodies learn how to automatically re-trigger and redo over and over and over throughout your daily life, that extends probably across multiple contexts. And that's probably why it's a problem, is that you're feeling anxious enough of the time that it's become a thing, right? And so when integration's happening, what we're doing is taking that breakthrough experience of not anxiety, of kind of the polarity of anxiety, of profound peace and well-being and safety and groundedness and not having any worry at all. And that's a new neural circuit that you've now developed, that your unconscious mind, your nervous system, however you want to think about that, automatically, spontaneously generated as a resource for you. Right? And so you want to take that resource state and you want to connect it to the neurology of the anxiety such that it transforms the anxiety neurology and either diminishes it, shrinks it, collapses it, soothes it, redefines it, transforms it, reframes it, what have you. And so the end effect of integration should be a transformation of the neural circuit of what you could call the schema from a psychology perspective of the problem, essentially, right? And this transformation should really translate, in my book, into lasting, not only brain rewiring, but lasting behavioral change, lasting emotional shifts, lasting mindset shifts, and really changes at the level of identity, and at the level of being, and at the level of behavior, right? So this is why I say, journaling might have a bit of transformational component to it, depending on how you do it. Contemplation, generally not. Hikes, baths, yoga, generally not. Meaning making, generally not. Why? Because those are all conscious mind activities. And what we're looking for is transformation at the unconscious level, right? So integration is something that happens when we're bringing that new resource state back into the unconscious where the problem exists in the first place, right? And so I'll just look at my notes here really quick. Right, so we're taking the insights, we're connecting the neural networks, we're returning that information back to the unconscious. So if you think about it, psychedelics, one way of describing what happens during a psychedelic experience is that it's a non-specific amplifier of our psychic energetic system, right? And we start to track all of this information that's happening in us that we're normally not really aware of. One way of describing that is that we become conscious of all of the unconscious, not all of, but some of the unconscious material that we are experiencing, working with, processing, that's there in us, right? And these experiences, these resource experiences, these transformative, positive moments, whether it's a mystical experience or a state like that, or whether it's an insight, if it's a positive, powerful experience, it also came from the unconscious up to the conscious, right? So all of a sudden you have this resource experience that came from the unconscious to the conscious mind. Now, what we want to do with integration is take what's now conscious, what you remember from that experience, revivify it, re-access it, and again, reconnect it back down into the unconscious. So we're completing a loop from unconscious to conscious, and then back from conscious to unconscious here. So that's when integration really happens. Again, it's change at the level of being, at the level of behavior, like I'm going to do something different than I normally do in my pattern, or at the level of identity. I see myself, I know I'm different now. I see myself differently now. That's integration. One way I put it recently on Reddit was that, when we go from I had a moment of peace to I am a more peaceful person, that's integration, If you had a moment in a psychedelic experience and then it's just a moment that you're dissociated from, that's just kind of in the past as a memory like all your other memories, that's not integration. Integration is when that memory gets to soak into you, right? Into the, to use this kind of a weird metaphor, but into the clay of your being. You know, when the rain of this new experience soaks into the clay of your being and really transforms the quality of your lived experience at the level of being, identity, behavior, that's integration. So, let me talk a little bit about when to integrate, and then we'll kind of wrap up the video here. But I hope this is starting to kind of explain to you more clearly what exactly psychedelic integration is. So yeah, it's not just, you know, feeling good. It's not just extending the high. It's not journaling. It's not taking a hike in nature, because those things generally don't do what's called memory reconsolidation, which is the actual neural rewiring of the brain, the neural repatterning of the issue. So these things don't generally kind of create a transformative rewiring experience at the specific place where you really need it. They're great, they feel good, they're wonderful, they're nourishing and nurturing, and that's an important piece of the bigger picture of healing, which I don't want to discount at all. But I want to make the clear distinction again that they're not integration. So let's talk about when you want to do integration. Okay, so let me give you some examples here of when to integrate. I've actually got a whole list of different integration scenarios. I'll probably end up doing a video with like 10 different scenarios where integration is really kind of useful or important or warranted, and, you know, different types of integration, because I actually think there are different kind of things we can use integration around. So I want to kind of define that for you a bit more, but I thought it would at least give you a few here in this video. So one example of when you would want to integrate would be, let's say you get one of those downloads that's a specific piece of self-improvement, life advice from whatever your guides or your ancestors or your higher self or your inner wisdom, however you want to think about it. You get some sort of specific guidance that's obviously beneficial, right? So sometimes you get guidance that's kind of non sequitur. You're like, what do I do with that? That seems kind of weird. Or you get guidance that's questionable, but sometimes you get guidance that's really clear cut and probably going to be good for you. Like, I should exercise more. I should do yoga more. I should eat a better diet and eat less junk food. I should, tell my parents that I love them. These kinds of very obvious, generally constructive, positive, going to serve you personal improvement pieces, right? So this is something you'd want to integrate and really like not let just be like a oh yeah, I should do that thing that just kind of drifts off and floats off into the ether of your life and into the background ambient things of maybe you could do, which, let's be honest, we all have like a massive category in our lives of things we don't really like look at that often, which are things we could do but don't. Don't let that happen. So the first place where I would use integration would be for some sort of specific self-improvement scenario where you got a clear-cut download from your own inner guidance. Second example would be, let's say you, like I said earlier, experience a breakthrough state, right? So what's a state? A state is kind of a somatic, emotional, mindset alignment that gives you a certain kind of feeling or attitude or mode of being, I guess would be a good way of putting it. So let's say you had a breakthrough state of bliss, of peace, of joy, of pleasure, of lightheartedness, of wisdom, of being, maybe deep and philosophical where you're normally kind of less that way, or you have some sort of an emergence of a really powerful positive state that was, maybe non-specific, but just this overall really good feeling that left you seeing and experiencing life through a different lens, let's say, right? So you see yourself differently, you see life around you differently, and it felt really good. And it was kind of this breakthrough moment where you're like, oh, life is beautiful. I'm safe. Things are good. Life is magical and profound. Oh, I can have patience for XYZ, whatever it is. There's so many different types of resource states that I don't want to try to pin it down too much, but we can just generally say a powerful, positive state. In that situation, it's a pretty obvious question. Where in your life could a powerful, positive state be a benefit to you? How could that positive, powerful state perhaps transform the issue that you're wanting to resolve, right? I mean, there's so many ways that we could draw upon something like peace or compassion or laughter and lightheartedness these become crucial touchstones in life skills. And so if your nervous system kind of automatically generated a state like that for you, that's something you now know how to feel at some level. Some part of you knows how to feel that way. And so what we want to do is integrate that and make that more accessible to you and more a part of your being in your everyday life. So that'd be the second example. Third example would be, let's say you had a life-changing aha realization moment. A light bulb goes on. You're like, holy moly, I get it. Whoa, I never saw that before. You see maybe a universal truth about life or about the human condition or about yourself or about your past or about whatever that's clarifying, that's perhaps useful, that's perhaps like really orients you in a different way to see your life in a whole other perspective that's maybe empowering or comforting or somehow beneficial to you. That's another place where I would integrate that mindset and really weave that back into the fabric of who you are so that you can, again, call upon that as a resource whenever you need it, as a source of empowerment. So really, in a sense, integration is about really completing the circle to help you follow your own wisdom, really to help you solve your own problems, truthfully. Last example would be, maybe you experience a totally different facet of your psyche that you're not normally in touch with. An example might be like a polarity. So to use a very kind of Jungian example, I'm not huge on Jung, but as an example, like let's say you are, male identified, male body, man, you're a man's man, you're a manly man, and you've been conditioned to really see yourself that way. You've lived your entire life through this lens of masculinity. Then you take some mushrooms and you experience this profound inner feminine aspect of yourself, right? This deeply beautiful, sensitive, responsive, nurturing, tender, intuitive aspect of yourself, right? That maybe was totally outside of your awareness, but all of a sudden those feelings are there, that experience is there, and it was good. It was profound. It was, beautiful, let's say. That's something you'd want to integrate, right? Or the inverse. Let's say you're normally like a female identified, female-bodied person who has grown up with female conditioning, and you've always been really nurturing and soft and tender and sweet and all of that. And all of a sudden you have this experience of your own inner tough, badass, young, like straight up, to the point, get shit done, masculine side. And you're like, what do I do with that? I'm really not used to feeling that or embodying that or experiencing that. Again, that's something you'd want to integrate into your personality, into the rest of your life, so you can call upon it when it's useful. So those are just kind of 4 examples off the top of my head here of when you might want to integrate. But there's many more examples. But basically, it's going to boil down to discerning something that was specific and positive that would be really useful if you brought that deeper into your daily life, specifically into the problem areas of your life. So I'm just going to say really quick, I'm going to do another video about this, so I don't want to talk about it too much, but some examples of what are not integration or when not to integrate are you had a big, weird, far out experience that's kind of loosened up your sense of what's real and what's not, and you don't know what to do with that. I wouldn't recommend integration for that because there's nothing specific and positive there necessarily. Let's say you kind of just had a weird, upsetting, emotionally kind of uncomfortable trip and you're not sure what you learned or what you didn't learn, and kind of process some stuff, but you didn't really process some stuff. And there's just kind of this weird in-between state. Again, I wouldn't say there's necessarily anything to integrate there. One of the things I should have said earlier in the video is integration really begins with discernment. It begins with discerning what was valuable and useful. What was a breakthrough here in a positive sense that can be applied constructively in your life. So some of these in-between experiences or really unsettling experiences or really destabilizing experiences, far out experiences, don't necessarily call for integration in my book by my definition. So I just want to make that clear really quick. Again, I'm going to talk about that in more depth because there are other dimensions to psychedelic aftercare besides integration in other videos. So watch this space, watch this channel, because it's game on time and I've got so much content for you guys. I can't even wait. Anyways, let me go ahead and summarize this. We'll wrap this video up and we'll call it good. And hopefully this has really helped to clarify and dispel some ambiguity around what psychedelic integration specifically is. So let me summarize for you. Okay, so in summary, really quick here, what is psychedelic integration? Now that I've gone through this, hopefully I have a better idea, but some things that it includes would be connecting the dots, let's say, neurologically between whatever the schema or the problem kind of neural circuit is that we want to transform, heal, resolve in our lives, and whatever kind of breakthrough experience we had on a psychedelic. So a breakthrough state, a breakthrough realization, a mystical experience, any of those, some inner guidance, that kind of a thing. Anytime we get a really powerful, clear, positive, useful experience out of it, integration is the taking of that and bringing that back to bear, connecting the dots between these different neural circuits so that the problem neural circuit transforms, gets reframed, gets lessened, gets diminished, gets resourced in a way that might help it heal, that kind of a thing. It really translates into lasting personal change at the level of being, at the level of behavior, at the level of mindset, at the level of identity, right? So you go from, I was this, but I am this now, right? That's when integration happens. Integration usually, again, begins with something specific. So you want to start by discerning what exactly you want to integrate or what was useful out of what you experienced. And integration is really about connecting all of this in a way that brings it deeper into your being. It may help you to extend the afterglow. You may feel more well-being because, again, if you've integrated something like peace or bliss deeper into your being, that's going to be more available, more accessible, and that might extend the afterglow. But it's not specifically about extending the afterglow of a psychedelic experience. Let me see. So also what it's not would be it's not meaning making. It's not contemplation. Those things are beautiful, don't get me wrong, valuable, important. It's not necessarily journaling, although sometimes journaling can do a bit of memory reconsolidation. I wouldn't say that generally any of these things do memory reconsolidation on their own. So it's not any of those. It's certainly not, grounding. It's not hikes, walks, yoga, taking baths. It's not eating clean. It's not meditation necessarily. Although, again, meditation can do some memory reconsolidation. But generally, these things don't end up, again, weaving that new breakthrough moment or experience back to the place that you need it, which is really what integration, in my book, is all about. So I hope that demystifies a bit for you because, again, there's so much buzz and hype and talk about it out there. And there are a lot of people who I really admire in the psychedelic therapy space who are always talking about integration casually as if it's a well-known thing, but it's really not. And so I wanted to try to define this for you and try to set the bar a little bit higher above, these kind of generic feel-good things like, journaling or hiking or whatever it is, as awesome as they are, because there's an opportunity here with integration to really fucking transform your life. I know, again, I said in the intro, but I'll just kind of reiterate here. I've been doing psychedelics for 30 years. I've had all the cliche experiences that you would think a psychonaut would have had. And in my experience, having had so many mystical experiences and breakthroughs and peak experiences and positive emotional states and insights into my own psychology or my background or into the nature of the human condition, I suffered for so long because I wasn't changing, even though I was touching these profoundly beautiful places in myself that I knew were there, that I knew were possible, that I knew were available, that I knew were my truest nature. And it was so frustrating and disheartening, quite frankly, to touch those spaces and then not be able to access that, to come back down, have the same old problems I had, the same old dysfunctional patterns I had, the same old issues, same old fears, and really over time, even more fears and more anxieties, as can be the case when we are not living in alignment with our deepest self. So I really see integration as super crucial, super important. I agree with all the different psychedelic therapists on that note that yes, this is a key, crucial step. What I disagree with is I want to get more specific and more clear about what it is and really what we're trying to enact as we do it, so that we're really getting the results more deeply into our lives. So with that being said, thank you for watching the video. I realize it's a long one. I hope you got value out of it. I hope it was clear. Let me know below, what did you think of this video? Is there something you resonated with, something that hit home for you, something you disagree with? Let's have a debate about it. Let's have a civil conversation about it. And again, if you want to learn how to do integration more specifically, or if you just want to learn in general, be a part of a group coaching community around how to use psychedelics for self-healing, link is below. I would love to have you aboard. And I hope you're doing well. Take care. I've got more videos, more content on the way for you soon. All right, take care.